Guys, my business baby is officially one, guys. It was just a year ago, about a year ago, when I sat down here and told you guys that I'm launching my own company, Joanna K Cosmetics. It's actually been one whole year. I'm not sure whether I feel like it's been a long year or a short year. I guess in some ways I feel like it's been a really short year, like it's gone so fast. And in some other ways, I feel like it's been such a long year because I've faced challenges that challenges that I never thought I would face. Actually, remember when I started my business, this statistic kept popping into my mind. This statistic that says that a certain percentage of businesses fail in their first year of business. I can't remember whether it's 70%, 90%, but I know it's like a really high percentage. And that just kept, and I kept thinking to myself, I just want the year to end and I want to make it through the year and not have shut down this business. And here we are, guys, 1 year in business. So today we're just gonna get ready together, do our makeup, and I'm gonna share with you guys the major mistakes that I have made in this first year of business. It has been such a roller coaster. It still is. So I'm gonna share with you guys some of the mistakes I made in case you want to start a business or you have a business. Maybe you can learn from them. But it's been a year of growth for me. I have learned so much about business. I have learned so much about life, and I've also learned so much about myself. Things I didn't know, abilities I didn't think I had. Sometimes a situation presents itself and then is when you realize, hiya, kumbe I could actually handle this, So I'm gonna be sharing with you guys all of that as we do the makeups. So I'm gonna share everything I use in the description box down below so that I don't keep stopping, and then I'm like, okay, so I'm using this foundation. We're not gonna lose our train of thought. So let's go ahead and get started. So one of the mistakes, I don't know if this one is really a mistake, but hey, let me tell you guys, business plans versus the reality on the ground. I'm telling you, this is the definition of vitu kwa ground, because I remember before I started Joanna K Cosmetics, I was so obsessed with having a business plan. Like I had this template that was so many pages long. I actually should look at that business plan and just laugh because I spent a lot of time sijui 1 year projections, sijui just all these things to do with a business plan. And then I started my business and I realized vitu kwa ground, the reality on the ground is very, very different. And usually nowadays I advise people, like, don't spend too much time coming up with a business plan, because how it is before you start that business and versus when you start that business are two different things. And I know sometimes people tend to put things off or put off starting a business, and one of the excuses that we tend to use is, I don't have a business plan yet, or my business plan isn't finished. Sis, it doesn't matter. Start the business. Actually, it's more effective to write a business plan once you're in it, once you're in that business, because guys, I spent months just writing a business plan, trying to do all these projections, how's the business gonna be, and then you start and you actually realize that the reality on the ground is very different, and you didn't even know what you were writing in the first place. So I'm not saying don't have a plan. Have a basic plan, of course. So I think if I were to do it over again, what I would do is I wouldn't sit down and write like this business plan that has all this nonsense that you don't need. I think I would make a basic plan of course, how much do I need to launch? Those are things so I was launching with my eyeshadow palette and 4 lipsticks, so I knew how much I needed to put into that, right? So get to know how much capital you need to actually start. Don't prolong starting the business because you don't have financial projections for the next 20 years, financial projections even for the next 1 year. Like, don't don't concern yourself too much with those things. Those things will come after you start the business, when you actually see how the business is going. The reality of the business is when you can actually sit down and, you know, actually come up with a concrete business plan that's gonna be effective. So I'm talking to you if you have been putting off starting a business because you don't have a business plan. Put the business plan to the side. Plan what you can, what you know right now, and start the thing. Just do the thing. Start the business. Okay, next mistake that I made in my first year of business. In fact, this was very, very early on in the business. I think I spent a bit too much money unnecessarily. Reason being, I think I was benchmarking with many brands who are already well established and who are already big and have been in it for a long time, you know. So I was seeing, you know, when brands launch, they do this these elaborate PR packages to send to people. Not when brands launch, okay, when they launch new products, or even when they launch, but I forgot to give myself a reality check and be like, that's Kylie Jenner. So if she's launching a makeup line, yo, she has so much money already. That's Kim Kardashian, as in she already has so much money that she's able to obviously put aside this money for her to send these elaborate PR packages. And you know, so me, I was sitting there like benchmarking, and you know, we have to do this photo shoot like this, it has to look like this, I have to make PR packages like this and send it to the whole of Nairobi. So I think at the beginning I ended up spending a lot of money on things that I didn't necessarily need to spend on. Like I remember when I started, I spent a lot of money. Ooh, I spent a lot of money to make PR packages. And then one mistake I made is that I made the PR packages to fit the new collection, or yeah, the first collection I had. So I had an eyeshadow palette and 4 lipsticks, and I made PR packages that can only fit those things, and I spent a lot of money. Those things are still sitting up there, guys, because it's like I didn't have that foresight that, yo, Joanna, you're gonna launch new products. It's like I just wanted to do it big, so I had 100 PR packages made. I don't even think I've used half of those. I had so many of them made and spent so much money, when I think in hindsight I should have had the foresight to know that I'm actually gonna launch more products, and therefore I should make a PR package that's not specific to those ones that I had already come up with. So of course now there's no way I can't. Those are things that very established brands do, you know, Kina Huda Beauty, Kina Kylie Cosmetics, KKW Beauty, those huge brands, they have a budget, they have a big enough budget to make PR packages specific to that collection. I mean, for crying out loud, Kylie Cosmetics even does what do you call it, holiday collections. So I think the point here is, don't be afraid to start small and don't compete with other brands. Try not to compete, because I think I did that a lot in the beginning, and I didn't realize that, you know, I'm a small brand. I am financing this business by myself. I don't have a loan. I don't have, like, these are my savings I'm putting into this business, and realistically speaking, I can't afford to do some of the things that these big brands do. And I'm not even saying that you don't have PR packages or whatever if you want to. I'm just saying, bring it down to your reality, because I think at the time my reality is that I needed that money for other things. I could have used that money to market better. I could have even put that money aside and used it to launch new products, because later on in the year I struggled quite a lot to come up with capital for me to launch new products. I'm still struggling with that. I think that's just a struggle that I've just accepted is a part of business. But I think I would have had it a lot easier had I not spent so much on some initial costs to launch, trying to compete with brands who've been, you know, in the game for a long time, or, you know, they just have bigger budgets than I do. So don't be afraid to start small. You can think big. By the way, I think a point will come, a time will come when I can do holiday collections and make PR packages for those holiday collections and send them out. From my lips to God's ears, in Jesus' name, I claim it. But that's not my reality right now. So don't be afraid to start small. That's I think the point that I'm trying to make here, because I made that mistake, and trust me, a few months after, I suffered a lot when the business didn't have enough money, you know, to grow. And I kept remembering, I don't spend that money. Oh. So the next mistake I made, and I feel like this has been a continuous struggle this year, I can't even say that I've completely come out of that space, is spending business money for personal stuff. So yeah, that has been a major challenge. Ideally, what you're supposed to do, which I knew and I had every intention of doing, is that you're supposed to pay yourself a salary, because you still have to appreciate yourself for, of course, for doing work, because you're working in the business. So don't have to say, I'm not gonna pay myself, never ever. If you're actually making some money, you should definitely have a small, even if it's 5,000 or 1,000, but pay yourself to appreciate yourself for the effort you're putting into the business. But I think for me, what I did is I ended up spending a lot of the business money for my own personal shenanigans, which of course, it might not have hurt the business, because I was still putting so much of the money I was earning away from the business into the business. But I think I would have had a lot more peace of mind, and I would have had, I think I would have just grown the business a lot faster had I actually just been paying myself something every single month. So as much as possible, guys, try and not use your business's money for, or okay, you know, sometimes you could be starting a business and that's actually your main source of income, and that's okay. But what I'm saying, try and have business money and personal money. So let the business pay you. Yes, you're living off the business, so you have to pay your rent and all. Come up with a figure that you feel the business can be able to pay you in order to live. But don't just have money coming into your personal M-Pesa, then you go somewhere, you spend it, you go somewhere, you spend it. Have your business bank account, pay yourself into your M-Pesa or whatever, and then you can do whatever it is you need to do with that money. But don't mix, which is what I did. And I think to date I'm still struggling I'm still struggling a lot with that, and it's really given me some very sleepless and stressful nights, because I'm just like, had I not spent that business money for these personal shenanigans, then I would have had money for XYZ. So that's a word to the wise. You guys know I bought a car in Feb, I think. And do you know what the crazy thing is? I had actually watched, really? So I think you guys know that I bought a car in Feb. And the interesting thing is, I had watched all these videos of people talking about like what mistakes they've made in their first year of business. And one thing that kept coming up is that people were saying, sometimes when you start seeing success in your business, you know, you just get carried away and you end up, instead of reinvesting that money back into your business, you end up like buying big personal items. So that is exactly what I did. I started seeing some success in my business very early on, which I'm really grateful for, and I went ahead and bought a car, you know. And I'm telling you guys, after I did that, I regretted it, because a few months after, you know, I was in a place where, you know, I want to grow the business, so I need a similar amount of capital that I needed when I was starting in order for me to introduce more products, but I didn't have all that money at once, you know. So things got stressful for me later on, because I made that decision to just jump in and buy a car, which yeah, point is I think you need to make peace with the fact that your business might not, even if your business does well in its first year of business, yeah, don't get carried away and spend that money on big personal items. I think a time will come when your business will grow enough for you to actually pay yourself a big amount of money and do your own personal shenanigans. But in the very beginning, as much as possible, try and reinvest back into the business. Keep growing it. Keep growing it. So that's definitely something I learned the hard way this year. Now, another mistake that I made that hurt me quite a bit is bringing people into the business too soon. So I think, again, this has to do with me looking at how other brands are running and thinking, okay, then if Huda Beauty is doing this, then I need to do this. So of course I need to have like a team, I need to have employees, and it just feels, you know, like I feel of a certain status when I say, yeah, my team is on it. So initially what I did is that I brought people on into the business, and they were doing things that in all honesty I could have done by myself. Of course I would have had to stretch myself a bit more, but I know that I could have been able to do those things by myself. So I brought in people, someone to handle sales. At some point I had someone who was doing the social media, and then I had an accountant. So one day I sat down and I'm calculating how much I'm actually paying out in salaries or consultancy fees, and I was just in shock, because I'm like, yo, like, the business is making money, but this money is just going out. And realistically speaking, these are things that I can actually handle for myself until the business grows to a point where, you know, I'm not able to, you know, because of course the more you grow, the more customers you have, so the more work is there. So at that point, of course, you can bring people into the business. But honestly, looking back, there was no need for me to actually bring in people into the business that early on. So I ended up spending a lot of money in salaries and consultancy fees, when all that money could have just gone back into the business to grow it. And like, I think this really depends on the nature of your business, because sometimes if you have a shop, of course you may need to get someone to sit there. I think it's all about you sitting down and evaluating for yourself and seeing that this is the nature of my business and these are the tasks I can handle. And if you can't handle all the tasks, of course bring someone in, but just be honest with yourself, because me, I wasn't honest with myself. I just liked saying I have a team, you know, I have employees, I have people who are working with me or for me. So that messed me up quite a bit. I think from the points I have said, it's very important for you to humble yourself when you're starting a business. Don't look at other businesses and feel like, woo, let's have a team, let me have a team, let me have elaborate PR packages. Like, just be humble and realize that you're starting out. Most of the time you don't have much money. Most of the time your business is not making that much money. So I think if I were to do it again, I would do things on my own for quite a while until the business grew. So at some point in the middle of the year, I had to stop working with everyone, because it was not sustainable for me to keep paying these people every month. And honestly, there was not even that much work. That's even the crazy thing, is that there was not that much work for me to have 2 people, an accountant. I didn't have that much work. But so for some time during the year, I did things on my own. It was quite difficult, but I managed to make quite some good money for me to be able to reinvest back in the business, although of course I was investing a lot more time. And then now I'm working with one person. So yeah. By the way, I was listening to a podcast that was talking that was saying how Kylie Cosmetics actually just has 7 employees. Can you believe it? Okay, maybe now it's grown since then, or they have more people since then. But then I just felt like, okay, you know what, Joanna, you actually don't need so many people working for you. I think I'm gonna end up doing a super simple makeup look, no eyeshadow, because we might stay here for a long time if I decide to do eyeshadow and go all out. So I guess I'm just gonna do like my everyday routine. I suppose, so that we're not here for like 50 minutes or an hour. So another mistake I think I made quite a bit, and I think everyone makes, and I think everyone will just have to make, is being a bit too hard on yourself. I think I engaged in a lot of negative self-talk. I still do, but of course now I'm a bit more aware when I'm doing it, so I try to stop myself. And I think I remember listening a lot to podcasts, or to other entrepreneurs speaking, and I think you guys know that one of the things entrepreneurs are always talking about is how, in your first year of business, you work 26 out of 24 hours in the day. Many of them say things like that. So a lot of the content I was consuming was telling me, in your first year of business, for you to succeed, you have to be working, like every minute of every day. You really, is a meal necessary? No, that is taking up too much time in the day. So I got that in my head a lot. And the truth is, the nature of my business does not demand for me to be working all the time. I think there are things I can do for a big part of the day, but for the most part, my business doesn't require for me to work a whole lot. And at the beginning, I used to feel so inadequate. Like I would put in my work in the morning, things are okay. I've even done something extra. And then, I felt like now, for me to now do something in the afternoon that's not work related, am I even an entrepreneur? So I was really hard on myself, and I used to be like, Joanna, you're not gonna succeed. You're being lazy. You're not putting in as much time as other entrepreneurs put in their first year of business. So you're obviously not gonna succeed. So I was really, really, really hard on myself. And I think one of the I've stopped doing makeup. One of the realizations that I have made this year, one of the major realizations being in business has taught me, is that there's no rule book. There's actually no rule book. And there are success stories for people who are so different, that it's about you finding how you work best, when you work best, how much work you need to put in order to fully function. So for example, you can find a success story for someone who works 2 hours out of 24 hours in a day. You can also find a success story for someone who works 24 out of 24 hours in the day. Although personally, I feel like that's not really possible unless you have very few productive hours in a day. So for you to say you're working all day and all night, you have to think about the quality of work rather than the quantity of work. So yeah, that's one thing I've really learned, is that there's no rule book. There's actually no rule book. You have to be the one to decide how many hours you can actually put into your business. And for me, I realized that for me, it's about quality more than it is about quantity. And also for me, a big thing has to do with planning. So if I plan what's gonna happen in the business, I can actually work for a day. Out of the 6 days, I can work for a day, and the business will, I'll have done my part. So that's one thing I've learned. So don't listen to this podcast and watch these videos and think, if I'm not putting in 27 out of 24 hours in the day to work, if I'm finding time to relax during the day, then of course I'm definitely not doing it right. My business is not gonna succeed. No. It's about finding how you work best, and that's that. I don't know if I should do my brows off camera. Okay, let's just do them here. I just won't make eye contact. I'll be looking at the mirror to make sure the brows are bomb. Okay, so something else, a major mistake I made, which I think is similar to another one that I've mentioned, is comparing my business to similar businesses. I think that ended up pushing me to do things that I didn't need to do, and on top of that, things that were not even in line with the vision that I had for my own business. So I think it happens. Maybe it doesn't happen to everyone, but it definitely happened to me, where I would look at other Kenyan brands, or I would look at other at international brands, and I would see, oh my god, they're doing this, I should do this also. Mind you, maybe I didn't have the money to do that. I didn't have that thing was not in line with my vision for my business. So I several times during this first year of business, I think I got quite carried away, and I did things because, you know, I was busy looking at what other brands were doing. So it's not a good place to be at. It's not a good way to go. I think you really have to be so, and I'm not saying you can't draw inspiration. You can absolutely, but there's a difference between drawing inspiration from what someone else is doing and comparing yourself or your business to someone else's business. There's a big difference, because I've drawn inspiration from so many brands, but I think you have to remain quite grounded in the vision that you have for your business, and you also have to be honest with yourself. And you know, if you actually cannot afford to do something and you're seeing another brand is doing it, imagine it's okay. Your time will come. It's not now. Because for me, I remember, in fact, one of the things that was giving me stress, you won't even believe, I was seeing so many cosmetics brands have billboards, you know, and I was just like, oh my god, they're so successful. Joanna K should have a billboard, which a billboard would be nice, but it's not necessarily in line with my brand's values, or the plan I have for my business, because my business is online. People buy online, and I want to reach people online. So when I saw these billboards, I actually found myself sitting down and thinking to myself, where can I put together money for a billboard? So we're gonna need to do a photo shoot. It's gonna have to be like this. This is the billboard we want. It's gonna have to be like this. And I had to give myself a reality check and be like, first of all, the billboards you're seeing are by MAC Cosmetics, Maybelline. Those are brands that have money, and even if they're smaller brands, that is in line with their vision. That is not in line with your vision. So I think it can happen quite a bit when you're starting off, that you tend to compare yourself quite a bit with other businesses doing something similar. You tend to put pressure on yourself because, you know, you feel like other businesses are progressing by doing this and that. And then you can end up spending unnecessary money to do things that you don't even want to do, because, you know, you're comparing yourself. So I discourage it. Don't do it. Don't do it. And you have to be quite aware, because sometimes it can just sneak up on you. You have to be quite aware and actively be able to check yourself when you're comparing yourself with a brand. I don't even know if those eyebrows are even. Anyways, we move, okay? We keep on moving. Now, one more, I think this could actually be my last one. One more mistake. I think I have so many more mistakes to share, but I think we'll be here for a really long time. So I'm basically just sharing the main ones and the ones I remember. And another one has to do with forgetting the vision of your company. I mean, there's a reason why you start a business, right? And you have a vision for that business. So one of the things I realized ended up happening, especially when I was working by myself and I didn't have anyone helping me, but even before that, is that I got so I started getting a bit too concerned, or rather, the only thing that occupied my mind was the two small everyday tasks, which of course are really important in order for your business to function. You know, you have to talk to your customers, you know, you have to make sure this person gets their delivery. You have to do that. But I think at some point I ended up being so consumed with those two small tasks down here that I would never come up and look at the business, you know, from above and remember, okay, this is the vision I had for the business, so we have to move forward on this. Because I don't know if that makes sense, because I was so into, you know, this person who's being delivered to in international house in town hasn't gotten her things, this other one who's being delivered to in South Sea, she wanted to receive it by this time. And I think sometimes you can end up being so down, so into those small everyday tasks, which again I've said are really integral, they're fundamental you know, of course, for your business to keep moving. But try and take a few minutes or some time out of the week for you to actually sit down and remind yourself why you're starting the business, the kind of goals you have for your business. Because you know, sometimes you could be so let me give an example. Maybe one of your goals is just to have like an amazing customer experience. Of course, this is a very generalized goal, but for the sake of, for example's sake, let's go with it. So maybe every day you're so busy responding to customers, making sure they get their orders, that you actually don't sit down at the end of the day and ask yourself or remind yourself that my goal is to have an amazing customer experience. Did I achieve that today or not? And to even think about, how can I improve customer experience? Can I add something to the package? Can I, you know, that sometimes you're so in it that you forget that you had goals and you don't actually work on them. You forget that you have a vision and you completely forget to execute that vision. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does. I think it does. So yeah, I had actually started doing a course by Centonomy, because also one thing I highly believe in is, of course, developing yourself as an entrepreneur, you personally, because your personal development will obviously affect how you run the business, and also just trying to gain more skills where business is concerned. I think you never know enough, and you also never know what you can read, what you can listen to, what class you can attend that can just give you, you know, this amazing idea. So I had started doing a course by Centonomy called I think Centonomy Entrepreneur. Unfortunately, I only went for one class because things were hectic, yo. I was traveling all around the country with Blaze, and the classes that I was doing were on Saturdays, so I found that I was going to miss quite a number of classes. So I'm going to be enrolling for that in Feb. But I remember in that very, very first class, one of the things that we were told is you need to sit down for a few minutes every day and think about your business. And I think in the class she was saying, you know, you don't actually realize that you don't think about your business, or you know, the overall vision you have for your business. You don't ever, because you're always go 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 go, that you never actually sit down, you know, with a pen and paper and actually write down, okay, even if it's just reviewing the day, how the business went, where you want the business to go. And it's something that I adopted. So just sitting down every day with my journal and just dedicating 10 minutes, sometimes I even do half an hour, just thinking about the business, you know. And that has really, really helped. So even if you're the one doing all the small tasks that help your business run, you have to sit down and check in with yourself and remind yourself why you started the business in the first place. Don't get too carried away with the everyday tasks. Yeah, I think I'm gonna make that my last mistake that I made in the past year. If you guys have businesses, please leave a comment down below and let us know what mistakes you made in your first year of business, what you learned from making those mistakes. Of course, we all want to learn, and we all want to learn. Let me also say this, yeah, because there are mistakes, right? The English language says they're mistakes, but I actually don't believe in failure and I don't believe in mistakes. If you learn something from a mistake or a failure, then is it really a mistake or a failure? So you have to just go in with this that's what I've realized about entrepreneurship. It's all about saying, I don't know anything. I'm going into this knowing nothing. But if you have the mindset that I'm gonna make mistakes, but I'm gonna learn from these mistakes, then I think you're gonna have a much easier time. So it's not a mistake if you learn something. And from each of these mistakes that I've said I made, I have learned something. And therefore, are they really mistakes? Because I've learned something from them and I'm implementing what I learned in, you know, how I move forward with my business. I'm gonna finish off with my gloss, literally my gloss. We're gonna be launching this very, very soon, Friday the 6th. All in all, I think, okay, one thing I'm aware of is that I tend to complain a lot about how tough business is. I did a lot. And I know I can help it, but then sometimes I feel like it's just so heavy. I feel like things are just so heavy that I just want to talk about it. And maybe sometimes I've been a bit discouraging to anyone who wants to start a business, but I'm honestly I'm very grateful. I'm so grateful for how far my business has come. I'm so grateful for what my business has taught me. I'm just overall so grateful for how this past 1 year has gone, that in fact I'm making mental notes to myself not to, like, don't complain. I think also in business for me, I tend to look at the hard things a lot more than I tend to be grateful for the good things. So moving forward, I really want to just be full of gratitude and say, okay, this is really stressing me and it's not working out. But on the flip side, a few months ago, this was my problem, and now it's not a problem anymore. You know what I mean? So yeah, also that's the thing, like, challenges just keep getting harder. It's like you keep unlocking a new level of challenges. So you really have to be grateful and realize, okay, last year I was actually complaining about this issue. This year I'm complaining about a much bigger issue. But if I was able to tackle that issue that at the time I thought was gonna finish my business, then there's nothing that I can't tackle, because it means next year I'll be on to a different challenge, but I'll have tackled this challenge. In fact, that is a word to myself because at the moment, of course, there are things that are happening in my business, and I'm just challenges I had at a time like this last year are coming to mind, and I'm feeling so grateful that I overcame those challenges, and also confident that I'm going to overcome the challenges to come, and this particular one I'm facing right now. So just a word of encouragement there. I hope you guys have enjoyed this long video. If you have a business, however young it is, even if it's 1 week old, believe me, you have already learned something. For sure, you've already learned something. So let the comment section just be all about, if you're in business, what have you learned? What mistakes have you made, and how have you grown from them? I really want just for us to feel the business love in the comments down below. So leave a comment. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.